sport introduces you to. The other thing is that this sport shaped me as a person. It shaped my character and has prepared me for so many things, like it does the student athletes that play this sport. To me, it all gets summed up by a Douglas MacArthur quote. On the field of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on other fields, on other days, will bear the fruits of victory. And college football, like every sport really, is just a microcosm of life. The adversity that you have to face, the preparation to go perform and do your best, the willingness to commit to something bigger than yourself and a team, those are things that you get from sports and specifically college football. And I will tell you this, it was never more evident to me. I was a pilot for most of my career in the Air Force. And when you're sitting in your cockpit, getting ready to fly over Baghdad with anti-aircraft artillery, with surface-to-air missiles flying, and you're going, oh man, here we go. We've prepared for this, but now it's time. It's time to put what we've prepared for, what we've trained for into action. I think back, and of course the stakes are a little bit different, but the feelings, the emotions, everything that goes into that reminds me of stepping out on a field and standing in front of a giant offensive lineman and going, here we go, showtime, let's do this. So the character, the preparation for life that college football gives to our student athletes is incredible, and the playoff is going to help enhance that even more. And then finally, as a fan of college football, there is no better time to be involved in this sport. We are going into an exciting era, and I think about in my last job, every day I woke up, I thought about preparing for what would be and possibly be the worst days in America. I was thinking about war. I was thinking about getting ready, training, preparing, hoping that that day would never come, but knowing that we had to be ready. Now, I get to think about every day the sport that I love, college football, and preparing for the playoff, preparing for a day that we know is going to come, preparing for a day that is going to be one of the most exciting in America and that we're all ready to see happen. So even though it's about something I'm passionate about, and I've always had the luxury of being able to be involved in something I'm passionate about, this is so positive. I couldn't be more excited, and you should be too, because this is going to be an amazing season. I have a lot of gratitude for what the commissioners have done to bring the 12-team playoff to fruition. It's going to do great things. I mean, the first thing is it opens the door. It is access to so many teams. 134 FBS teams have the opportunity now to compete on the field for the national championship. This game's not going to be decided by a committee. It's not going to be decided by polls. It's going to be decided on the field, and that is very exciting. And I'm appreciative of the boldness to step into this era. It's something we've been talking about for a long time, but now it's here. So that's very exciting. They had a lot of principles and a lot of things that they wanted to value, and one of those is conference championships. And so in the new format, one thing that we see that I'm very excited about as well is that the top 5 conference champions will be in the playoffs. Now, the top 4 will get a bye, and the 5th place will get ranked. If they're not higher than 12, obviously they'll get placed and they'll get pulled up to number 12 if they're ranked lower than that. But those top 5 teams will be, those 5 champions will be in the playoff. That is also exciting. I think it's wise to honor the championship games, because championships do mean something, and those champions should have the opportunity to participate. So we're excited about that. They also had student health and safety in mind, because the games don't start until 2 weeks after the championship games. And that's important as well. It gives those athletes and coaches a little bit of recovery time to get their legs back up under them, heal up some wounds and injuries that they might have had, but to get ready so that they can be at their absolute best going into the playoff. And the commissioners obviously put a lot of thought into this to make sure that our student athletes are taken care of in this endeavor that they're about to embark upon. And then the other thing that I appreciate is the fact that they have fan interest in mind. And that's where the campus games are so important, because our fans are going to travel and they're going to go see some of these teams play. And that first round of games on the campuses are going to be it's going to be electric seeing them play at their home stadiums, teams 5 through 8 that are ranked by the selection committee. It's going to be amazing. And I want to make one thing clear, though. The teams will be selected first, then we'll get ready for their campus games. And their preparation for the campus games has nothing to do with their selection to be in the playoff bracket. But those 5 through 8 teams will be ready, and our team is ready to help them to get ready. So lots of goodness happening here. Lots of goodness. Bigger access, honoring our champions, letting the student athletes have the best opportunity to excel in the playoff, and then the campus games, followed by the bowl games and the quarters and the semis, and then the big game at the end of the season. So amazing, amazing time. I want to thank the selection committee too. 13 people that are volunteering their time to rank order 1 through 25, and they start that work in November, early November, and they work their way all the way up through Selection Day, which is around December 7th, on the day of the conference championships. And I want to say thank you to them, because it is their time, and they put a lot of time. Last year, I got to sit in on the selection committee process. And what I'll recommend to any of you, if you get a chance to do the mock selection, you should do it, because it's an eye-opener. And you see the commitment, the integrity, and really the tough decision-making that goes on in that room. I have ultimate respect for the people that are in that room making those decisions. They're coaches, former coaches, athletic directors, journalists, just people that know football. A lot of them are former players. So that room is filled with experts to make a decision on those top 25 teams, and then to bracket them to execute the playoff. So very exciting, very grateful to that group for their professionalism and what they're going to do for college football. It's going to be incredible. And then the last group that I want to thank is our CFP team. I inherited, I'll say, from Bill Hancock, who is amazing. I give all deference to Bill Hancock, because he's kind of the father of the CFP. But not only did he get us started with a great foundation to the playoff, but he also built an amazing team that is already hard at work to make the playoff special. We're already, my first trip when I started 4 weeks ago, we went to Atlanta. They were deep into preparation for the championship game. My next trip was to Miami, getting ready for the 26th championship game. And that's how far ahead that team is thinking. They're also working with all 134 FBS teams so that they're ready for the on-campus games. We're making sure that they know what's expected, because on some of those campuses, it's going to be the biggest game they've had ever on campus, but certainly the biggest game that they'll have had this coming season. So we want to make sure that they're all ready if they're selected, and we're reaching out to all 134 teams, because all 134 teams have an opportunity to be there. So, and of course, we wish them all the best, but we're going to make sure that we do all we can to help them when they get to that point. So with all those things said, I'm just excited to be here to give back to the sport that I love. I'm excited for this new 12-team playoff format, because it's a game changer. I said this before, game changer, no pun intended, but it will change what college football is and becomes into the future. Thank you to the commissioners, our selection committee, and definitely a shout out to Bill Hancock and our CFP team that's going to really make this special for all of us. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for what it's going to bring to me as a fan, as a former player, and what really it's going to bring to our country into the future. So I will stop there. Kevin, sir, we have a few minutes for any questions.
Yes, thank you, Rich. We have time for a couple questions, and I'll mention that Rich will be around. If we don't get to your question right now, he'll be around and be happy to visit with you. We'll come all the way up here to the front, Grant, right here on the second row, right in front of us, Rich.
Hey, my name is John Burrows. I'm with On Texas Football. Before my question, I want to thank you for your service. So
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate that. My question has to do with the Group of Five spot for the college football playoffs. There's been a lot of fans who don't like it and think that it's not a competitive spot, but then other people point to Tulane's win against USC here in Dallas in the Cotton Bowl just 2 years ago. What are your thoughts on the Group of Five college football playoff spot, and is that a spot that is going to be safe for those teams going forward?
Thanks, John. Yeah, that's a great question. Personally, I'm very excited for that fifth championship, and maybe that Group of Five team, maybe they're not the fifth. Maybe they rank higher among the champions, but also there's an opportunity for the Group of Five to be in the 7 at-large teams as well after the 5 champions. So what I love about this whole playoff format is that it really does open it up to everybody. And it at least we know that there's going to be one spot for any team to come into from regardless of conference, but that doesn't mean it's only one spot. There's a chance for them to get in another way, and I think that's what makes it great. And fans are going to be excited because of this format all the way into November, because every game counts, every game matters, and every team that continues to perform and climb the ladder has a shot right up to the end. So I'm excited for the way the format is laid out so that it really does open it up to everybody and that we're not limiting ourselves to 1, 2, 3, 4 conferences, but it's really open to all of them. Thank you for that question, John. Appreciate that.
Okay, we'll stay in that same section right in the front row, just to your right, Rich.
General, good morning. Thank you for being here. Terry from Orange Illustrated. Again, I echo thank you for your dedication.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
So, talk about fan experience, fans being excited. One of the things fans love is the Air Force flybys over games. Do you have any influence over that since you've been in the military and a pilot? And have you ever flown over a stadium in your time as a pilot?
Thank you, Terry. So I'll answer your last question first. Every time there was a flyby, I flew B-1 bombers, the best aircraft ever developed by any country in the world. I just want to put that out there. But I will say, every time there was an opportunity for a flyby, I was the first hand up, because there's nothing better than flying over a stadium. And, you know, so I always took that opportunity. But I still got friends. In fact, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force was a classmate of mine at the Air Force Academy. So I have some pull, and I will use it at every opportunity to get a great flyby. So you can bet on that one. Thank you.
Okay, Rich, we'll go over to our right-hand side on the near aisle.
Yes, sir.
McLaughlin, Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. Can you talk in the 12-team era about the balance between record and strength of schedule when you're deciding the at-large spots beyond the automatic bids for the conference champions, and how the committee plans to weigh that?
Absolutely. So what I'll say first, I mean, both of those, you bring up two great criteria that the selection committee is going to use. How it's weighted is hard to say, because there's the data that the selection committee has, and they have a lot of data. They look at iPads. They get iPads every week so that they can watch every game that's pertinent to that selection process. And they can watch a game in actually 45 minutes or an hour because of the way it is laid out on the iPad. But when they make those decisions, they're looking at the full body of work of a team up to that point in the season. So strength of schedule is obviously going to be important. What their record is, the eye test is going to be important. But there's just a lot of elements that go into it. But it's hard for me, because I don't actually have a role. My role is to make sure that we're following the protocol that are laid out by the commissioners in making these selections. But to weight it, I think, to say what the exact weighting of those is, I don't want to actually put a number or a proportion to that, but I will say they are two very important criteria that the selection committee will look at, and they are well trained. In fact, we start going through their training in August to get them ready to go through mock drills so that they understand. And the diversity of that group in there is really what's going to make it work for us, because they're, different coaches, different members of that committee are going to look at different things. But it's about the collegiality and their ability to actually have the hard discussions and make the hard calls is what's going to get it. But you hit it on the head. There's a lot of criteria. Hard to put a nail into what's the weighting of them, but all are important. Did that answer your question? Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll go on this straight down this middle aisle on the near aisle.
Good morning, sir. Steve Moulton, WZZN out of Huntsville, Alabama. There is a lot of assumption, at least from what I'm hearing and a lot of media members hearing, that we're going to 14 teams rather than 12. And of course, this is the first year of the 12. I was wondering the standpoint from the playoff committee of the assumption that we are all believing that we're going to go to 14.
Yeah, Steve, good question. So first, I would not make that assumption. But what we can not assume but know is that we're going to make this 12-team playoff as spectacular as we absolutely can. And then in good military fashion, after the operation is done, after the playoff is concluded, then we're going to hot wash and we're going to look back and see what worked, what didn't, and how can we make it better, especially in the early days. I think it's important for us to be open-minded and not take things off the table so that we can look at it and see how could we actually make it better and not lock ourselves into anything right now. So there's a lot of talk about possibilities and potentials for what could be good, but we need to see how the 12-team playoff goes and then make that assessment afterwards. And that's where the commissioners stand too. So great question. Thank you for that.
I'd like to thank Executive Director Clark for his time this morning. As mentioned, he will be here and be happy to visit with you and answer any additional questions here today. Executive Clark, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you all. And just for the, I want to make sure you know, I go by Rich. I'm retired. I'm not general anymore, and I'm happy to be a civilian. It's good. So you can call me Rich, and that is preferred by me, and it is okay. You're not hurting my feelings by using my first name. So thank you for that. Thanks for your time today. Thanks, Kevin.